4, 3, 2, 1, and booster ignition, liftoff of Space Shuttle Discovery.
So, you missed the AI boom? Quantum computing is, well, we'll discuss that in another video. But today, everyone is talking about the future hype, which is the space industry. This company isn't just launching rockets, it's trying to build the future of space. Today on Ticker Detective, we're looking at Rocket Lab. Quick disclaimer, this isn't financial advice, just my take. Always do your own research. Rocket Lab, ticker RKLB, a company that's gone from a small startup to one of the most important players in the new space economy. But here's the question, is this a long-term winner, or a stock that's already priced for perfection? Rocket Lab started in 2006, founded by engineer Peter Beck, with a very simple goal: make accessibility to space cheaper and easier. But today, despite the company name and history, this isn't just a rocket company anymore. It's what's known as an end-to-end space company, positioning itself for the future of mankind's space dominance. They operate the Electron rocket, designed specifically for small satellite launches, with 83 launches and 249 satellites successfully deployed to date, and a variant called HAST, used for hypersonic testing, particularly in defense. But here's where it gets interesting. The majority of their business now comes from building space hardware, things like satellites, solar panels, and flight systems, not just launching them. Now, as you can imagine with this market, operating costs are astronomical, excuse the pun, and unlike many space companies, Rocket Lab is actually generating real revenue. Annual revenue is now in the hundreds of millions, with strong year-over-year growth. And here's the big deal, they also have a backlog worth billions, which essentially means future revenue is already contracted, but they're not profitable yet, because they're reinvesting heavily into their next big project, and this is the real game changer. The Neutron rocket. Neutron is their next generation rocket, designed to compete with SpaceX's Falcon 9. This moves Rocket Lab from small satellite launches into the much bigger market, mega constellations, defense payloads, and large-scale missions. But this is also where things get risky. Development delays have already pushed timelines back, and space is not forgiving. If Neutron succeeds, Rocket Lab levels up. If it fails, it becomes a very, very expensive problem. The stock itself has had a strong run, after years of sideways movement, as the business model started to prove itself. But with that growth comes higher expectations. The current price sits around $78. Looking at the 5-year chart, you'll see the stock struggled early on. After years of being stuck in the $4 to $10 range post-SPAC, the stock finally broke out in 2025 as the space systems business began to prove its worth. With 1-year return being over 330%, the stock has been one of the top performers on the Nasdaq over the last 12 months. And year-to-date it's up approximately 11% in the last 3 months, despite a recent 15% pullback from all-time highs of $99.60 set in January 2026. Rocket Lab's recent earnings call, February 26, 2026, was a record-breaker that completely reset Wall Street's expectations. Revenue was reported at $602 million for 2025, a massive 38% increase year-on-year, but more importantly, they reported a significant backlog, a staggering $2.0 billion. This provides multi-year revenue visibility that most biotechs or tech startups can only dream of. And to add rocket fuel to the fire, GAAP gross margins hit a record 38% in Q4 2025, proving they can actually make money on launches. Their cash position sits at approximately $977 million in cash and marketable securities. But there's the burn. They are still reporting a net loss, approximately $198 million annually, because they are pouring every spare dollar into the development of their next-gen rocket, Neutron. So, let's now take a look at the bull versus bear cases. The bull case, or some might say the SpaceX Light thesis, the Neutron catalyst. Their medium-lift rocket, Neutron, is designed to compete directly with SpaceX's Falcon 9. If the Q4 2026 maiden flight is a success, Rocket Lab's valuation could double as they enter the mega constellation market. Then there's the defense prime status. They recently won a $190 million contract for hypersonic test flights and an $816 million contract to build satellites for the Space Force. They are becoming a defense prime, like Lockheed Martin, but with 10 times the growth speed. And of course, vertical integration. By making their own parts, they avoid the supply chain nightmares that are killing competitors like Astra or Firefly. So the bullish case is really pretty simple. Significant growing revenue, a super strong backlog, more and more defense contracts, and vertical integration. This is one of the few space companies actually executing. So I hear you. What could possibly be the bear case on this stock, right? Well, the bear case is basically an execution risk thesis. Neutron launch delays have hampered the stock. The first launch was pushed from 2025 to late 2026 following a tank rupture during testing. Space isn't an easy game to play in, and it's extraordinarily expensive to keep pace, so another major failure could drain their cash and tank the stock entirely. Then there's the valuation. At a $44 billion market cap, RKLB is arguably priced for perfection. Any miss in the Q1 2026 earnings could trigger a massive sell-off, and all this is coupled with insider selling. CFO Adam Spice and CEO Peter Beck have sold over $280 million worth of shares in the last 90 days. While insider selling is often pre-planned, it creates a negative bad optics cloud over the stock. So the risks, and hence the bear case, is just as clear. Neutron launch delays, high valuation, and execution risk. And in a high expectation stock, even small disappointments matter. The conversation around Rocket Lab, RKLB, has reached a fever pitch. The stock is no longer just a retail favorite, it is now a battleground for major Wall Street banks. Wall Street is currently moderately bullish, but there is a massive gap between the bulls and the bears. Average price targets around $76, roughly in line with current trading, but the high-end bulls like Bank of America recently raised its target to $120, and Morgan Stanley moved to $105. They view Rocket Lab as the only viable space index stock besides SpaceX. Then there's the low-end bears. Some analysts, like Zacks and Weiss Ratings, maintain sell or hold ratings, citing a low value score and the fact that the company still burns major amounts of cash annually. And it's always valuable research to consider who owns a stock to gauge the professional investor's sentiment towards it. The big money has officially arrived at the launch pad. Institutional ownership has been increasing. Total institutional ownership now sits at almost 50%. With major funds like Vanguard and BlackRock holding positions, institutional buying increased significantly in Q1 2026, following the circa $2 billion backlog news. A nice trend for shareholders, as this signals growing confidence. However, this massively raises the stakes and ergo the expectations. So, what's the verdict? barring the legacy space companies like SpaceX, who's also touting the idea of going public with an IPO this year. Rocket Lab is the only new space company that has proven it can launch reliably with over 80 launches and build a sustainable business model. They are no longer betting on a dream, they are fulfilling a $2 billion order book. So what's the verdict? Rocket Lab is no longer a speculative idea. It's a real business, with real revenue and real contracts. But it's still a company betting big on one major catalyst: the success of Neutron. If it works, this could be one of the defining companies of the next decade. If it doesn't, the market will remind everyone just how hard space really is. So to conclude, if you can stomach the volatility of a potentially delayed Neutron launch, RKLB is a foundational stock for any future tech portfolio. The real payday for this stock isn't today. It's in late 2026 when Neutron finally leaves the pad. And looking forward, if Neutron is a success, the next major event is the Q1 2026 earnings call, when the stock could make some real waves in the market. Quick disclaimer, this isn't financial advice, just my take. Always do your own research. For more stock breakdowns, subscribe to Ticker Detective. And as always, invest smart, stay sharp. Thanks for watching.